The NBA landscape shifted dramatically the moment Luka Doncic landed in Los Angeles. It was a seismic event, a trade that felt like a fever dream. Immediately, the basketball world began salivating at the potential of pairing the game's ultimate generational talent with its current elder statesman. The narrative wrote itself: two of the smartest, most pass-first, high IQ players in the league would simply share the ball and decimate defenses with a symphony of no-look passes and step-back threes. It was a beautiful theory, but it ignored the cold, hard truths of modern NBA construction. The reality is that the LeBron James and Luka Doncic partnership wasn't just a bad fit, it was fundamentally doomed from the very start. To understand why this pairing was destined for failure, you have to look beyond the highlight reels and into the granular details of roster construction and player archetypes. We heard some incredibly revealing insider chatter this week, specifically from Rachel Nichols on the Colin Cowherd Show. Nichols, who has deep ties within the league, painted a picture of a Lakers organization that is already looking past this season. She described the current vibe around the team not as one of desperation to win now, but as a collective, almost unspoken agreement to simply get to the summer. Everyone in that locker room, from the front office to the players on the bench, knows this current iteration is not a contender. They are playing out the string, fighting hard on some nights, but with their eyes firmly fixed on the off-season, a period where they project to have more cap space than any other team in the league, roughly $50 million. But here's the catch with that financial flexibility: it's predicated on one massive, franchise-altering decision. That cap space only fully materializes if LeBron James is not on the roster. The Lakers have publicly left the door open for LeBron's return, maintaining an air of respect and gratitude. Privately, however, the sentiment Nichols is hearing is clear: building around Luka Doncic does not, and cannot, involve LeBron James. And this isn't just about money. This is about the on-court reality that has become painfully obvious to anyone watching the games. The numbers are damning. The statistical output for lineups featuring LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves is a defensive disaster. The rating is abysmal. As Nichols pointed out, you simply cannot construct a championship-caliber team that closes out NBA Finals games with 3 defensive liabilities on the floor. It's an impossibility. Let's dissect that defensive liability argument, because it's the core of the issue. We often hear the caveats, but you can build around a defensive weakness. And it's true. History is littered with examples of offensively dominant players who weren't plus defenders. Magic Johnson wasn't renowned for his lockdown defense. Stephen Curry has spent his career being targeted, yet the Warriors built a dynasty around him. The difference is the ratio. Those teams succeeded by surrounding one offensive hub with a swarm of versatile, switchable defenders. They hid one player. The Lakers are being asked to hide 3. You have Luka Doncic, whose defensive engagement has always been a point of contention, to put it mildly. You have Austin Reeves, a player with unlimited heart but physical limitations that make him a target for bigger, stronger wings. And then you have LeBron James, a 40-year-old forward conserving his energy almost exclusively for the offensive end. In the regular season, against mediocre teams, this deficiency can be masked. In the cauldron of a playoff series, against elite offenses that hunt mismatches, it becomes an exploitable crater. The offensive side of the ball is just as clunky. We were sold a vision of seamless synergy, but we forgot a crucial piece of biographical information. Luka Doncic didn't model his game after Steve Nash or Magic Johnson. He modeled his game after LeBron James. He grew up watching LeBron's YouTube clips, studying his moves, his pace, his ability to control a game as a 6 feet 8 inches point forward. So, what we have on the court together is a master and his student, both trying to run the same classroom. They do the same things. They thrive with the ball in their hands, surveying the defense, probing for weaknesses, and picking apart opponents with methodical precision. When they play together, the ball doesn't move in a dynamic, flowing system. It sticks. It becomes a game of your turn, my turn. This lack of offensive rhythm is compounded by the defensive woes, leading to the disjointed, lethargic performances we've seen since the trade. This brings us to the inevitable and incredibly delicate summer conversation. Rachel Nichols framed it perfectly. How do the Lakers move off the face of the league for 2 decades with elegance and respect? LeBron James has delivered everything the Lakers could have asked for. A championship, albeit in the bubble. Unprecedented media attention. A constant aura of relevance. He's been the model of a professional in public, even if the whispers of high maintenance exist behind the scenes. There's no handbook for gracefully telling a living legend that his time is up, especially when he's still capable of averaging 25 points a night. But if LeBron decides he wants to play another season, that conversation has to happen. It can't just be about salary. It has to be about role. The front office would have to sit down with one of the most powerful athletes in history and explain that he might not be on the court at the end of games. They'd have to ask him to accept a diminished role for the greater good of a team built around Luka. Imagine the circus that would ensue. LeBron has a constellation of media allies who would amplify every frustration, every slight. His podcast partners, his friends in the media, they would fuel a constant narrative of discontent. The distraction would be deafening, and that's before you even factor in the continued presence of Bronny James on the roster, which remains its own unique sideshow. The blueprint for what the Lakers need to do is right in front of them. They don't need to reinvent the wheel. They need to look at the team that got Luka Doncic to the NBA Finals last year, the Dallas Mavericks. That team wasn't built on star power alone. It was built on a foundation of dogs. It was built on defensive versatility, athleticism, and guys who could cover for Luka's shortcomings on one end while spacing the floor for him on the other. The Mavericks surrounded Luka with relentless point-of-attack defenders, switchable big men, and energy players who thrived in chaos. The Lakers, with LeBron and Reeves next to Luka, have the opposite. They have a surplus of creators and a deficit of stoppers. To truly unlock Luka, the Lakers need to pivot completely. They need to trade finesse for ferocity. They need to find their own version of Derrick Jones Jr., their own version of a young Tyson Chandler. They need players who don't need the ball to be happy, who take pride in making the opponent's best player miserable. This season was never really about a championship. The ceiling for this team, with this roster construction, was always the second round of the playoffs, and even that felt optimistic. The statistics bear this out. The Lakers have a disastrous record against teams with a winning record. They feast on the lottery-bound teams, padding their stats and building false confidence, but when they step into the ring with contenders, they get exposed. Their defensive shortcomings are magnified, and their offense becomes stagnant. This isn't a new problem that appeared after the Luka trade. It was always there. We saw it in the first 14 games of the season when LeBron was out and the team looked faster, hungrier, and more cohesive. The moment LeBron returned, the ceiling lowered. The team's potential was capped by the fundamental incompatibility of its two stars. So, as the summer approaches, the path forward for the Los Angeles Lakers is simultaneously difficult and crystal clear. They must make a choice between the past and the future. The romantic idea of LeBron and Luka sharing the court was always just that, an idea. In reality, it's a partnership of two similar players at vastly different stages of their careers. To build a sustainable contender around Luka Doncic, the Lakers need to embrace a new identity. They need to become younger, more athletic, and defensively ferocious. They need to let LeBron James walk into the sunset with the respect he deserves, opening up the cap space and the roster spot necessary to finally build the team Luka needs. It's not about disrespecting a legend. It's about accepting a fundamental truth of the NBA: you cannot win with 3 defensive liabilities on the court in crunch time. The Lakers know it, the insiders know it, and eventually, LeBron James will have to accept it, too. The experiment is over. The future, for better or worse, belongs to Luka.